Hello and welcome to a spooky, scary edition of the Deceptive Reality podcast. My name is the evil clown Nick, and with me is the spooky werewolf Bert.
Spooky alien werewolf Nick.
Oh, alien. Sorry, my bad.
I don't know why I've got...
my bad, alien.
I don't know why I've got that mask. It just sits underneath my desk at this point. That's kind of a...
You never know when you're going to need an alien mask.
Listen, hey, we live in a day and age where sometimes you just got to have alien masks, Nick. That's all there is to it.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I mean, I used to... Oh, man, that's going to make me sound awful psychotic. I used to have a costume in the trunk of my car, and it was just because I used to work at the theater, and I put it in there, and I was too lazy to take it out. But out of context, that sounds real creepy.
It's all right, Nick. Hey, sometimes things are out of context. It's okay.
That's right. Well, if that's out of context, it's creepy. Hey. And it fits our episode.
Exactly. Here. It's dark on Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. Yeah. Hopefully y'all have an amazing Halloween. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
The cool thing
Best
about
day of the year.
Well, per Nick, this is like his
right.
Don Perignon right here.
But I even dressed up for it.
He did.
Got my Terrifier shirt, one of many I bought on my latest trip to the city.
It's very terrifying. You know the cool.
You've not seen these?
No. Those are brand spanking new.
It's not for you. Trust me. It's awful. It'll make you unholy just watching them.
Oh yeah. I can't listen, Nick. I can't get too unholy now. I gotta keep it a little bit holy. Holy.
Yeah. It's a lot of people throw up seeing the third one.
What?
I can't wait to see it. Yeah, that's what they're saying.
Is
even
that bad?
Well, supposedly I've not seen it yet, but I went to a Hot Topic in Toronto and I was talking to the girls there, and yeah, I know, right? They have this horror stuff, and the girls, one of the girls said, I went to see it with my friends. You have to drive out of the city to see it. Most places aren't playing it. And he almost threw up in the second scene. And I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see this. And she's like, you have to see this.
Is it just gory? Is that why it's so bad? Just super gory?
Yeah. Yeah. Even the actor playing Art the Clown had to take a break in between the second scene, I guess.
That's crazy. Boy. See, when it comes to gory, I don't do gory because it messes with my mental state too much.
I think it would really mess you up, this one. Even the second one might. I don't know.
I'm sure. Like, sometimes Jess will be like, hey, you want to watch blah, blah, blah? Like, even the, like those true life crime things, too much for me sometimes.
Right.
It's like...
Yeah. Well, I find those worse. Because it really happened.
Could be, yeah. See, for me, it puts me in like a weird headspace. And once I get into that weird headspace, it's like, for my creative mind, I have to be kind of happy-go-lucky, enjoying life, just feeling the vibe, baby. And those completely mess with it. So,
but I can understand that. But I live in that headspace, though.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But everyone should be excited. Listen, we do 2 specials a year. We got the Halloween special, which we're doing now. I just sent Nick a script for the Christmas one.
Yeah.
So we've been talking about it.
I think this is blasphemous for me to say. I love Halloween, and the Halloween special is awesome. So you guys are in a treat for this. But the real special episode of the year is the Christmas one, because we go completely off brand. And we do a whole production, and I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see what roles I get.
I'm super excited to see what we're going to do with the Christmas special, because last year we went all out. Now, I will say our Halloween special last year was awesome. And I even told Nick, I said, I want to figure out how to one up it this year, because we got to one up it, right? So I think I've one upped what we did last year a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So we're now Nick will only get to see 2 of these 1-ups because he's got his own stories. He's not heard my stories. I've not heard his stories. So the pizzazz that I added, I've only added to 2 of mine, and I've got 4 stories. I just figured out how to do it. Now, for you at home, you've not seen anything like this before on this channel. And it's because I just learned how to do it. And this is the first episode we're going to be doing it on. So, so are you curious to see and get this soiree going, Nick, to see what we're working with? So
I love nothing more than our viewers' stories.
This is true. Well, let's stop talking about it, Nick. Let's be about it. Check this out. It was late one night, and the house was eerily quiet. Our son, he was just a baby, and he's fast asleep in his crib, and everything seemed peaceful. But something steered me from my sleep, an uneasiness that I couldn't shake. Unable to drift back to sleep, I got up for a smoke of a cigarette, hoping it would calm my nerves. As I sat on the couch in the living room, the silence of the house was almost deafening. That's when I heard it. The unmistakable creak of a dresser drawer sliding open and then slowly closing. The sound came from the bedroom, just next to where I sat. My heart began to race. I figured my husband had just gotten up, maybe searching for something in one of the drawers. A few minutes later, I'd peek into the bedroom, halfway expecting to find him awake, but there he was, sound asleep, not a single sign of a disturbance on his face. The next morning, I would ask him about it, but he denied being up in the middle of the night. It wasn't me, he would say, his brow furrowing. That dresser, it used to belong to his great-grandmother. He had grown up hearing stories about her, and a strange thought, it crossed his mind. Maybe it was her. The thought of it sent a shiver right down my spine. It never happened again, but the memory of that night still lingers. But that wasn't the only strange thing. You see, we heated our house with old wood and coal-burning stoves, and the one in the living room, it had a dial on it that you would adjust the heat from low to medium and then to high. And whenever we left the house, we'd always set on low, you know, just to be safe. But one day after coming home, my husband went to turn the dial up only to find it was already on high. "Did you turn this up?" he asked me, his voice tense, but I knew I hadn't touched it, and our son was too young to even do it. He would eventually just shrug it off. But from then on, I started making sure to check the dial every time we left the house and every time that we came home. Strangely enough, it kept happening. No matter how many times I would check to make sure it was on low, when we would come home, it would always be cranked all the way up to high. My husband would suspect that maybe it was the landlord who had been sneaking into our house while we were gone, but when he would change the locks, the mysterious adjustments, they would continue to happen. It wasn't just paranoia, something or perhaps somebody was messing with us. The strangest part? My parents and I lived in that house when I was younger, but as a child, I never experienced anything out of the ordinary. But now it seemed like the house was alive with secrets, as if the past, it came back to haunt us.
Oh, that was extra special.
Yeah, we had to one-up it, Nick. We had to one-up it.
I guess so. Wow. The video in that, impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a cool concept. Took me a long time. It took me an entire day to figure out how to do that.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
It reminds me of like the old school animations back in the day, where it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. But of course, it has
pretty darn close.
Pretty darn close, yeah. But it has our feel, you know, the feel that we went with from you, and it says Deceptive Reality is what it says.
Yeah, we're really getting into our own style. I like the intro that you've done for us on YouTube as well. I thought that's pretty good too. The same style. Huh?
What you mean?
The logo.
Oh, the logo at the beginning of the one video?
Yeah. I thought that was pretty neat.
I thought about doing that on every single one. because I think it's cool the way he kind of like what you're talking about, where he walks, but like it goes past the lettering, and yeah, that's
exactly.
This AI's come a long way, brother.
Oh yeah, I know. It definitely couldn't have done that before.
No.
But this story was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the part. Well, I mean the whole thing, but especially the part where the heat keeps getting turned up all the way.
Yes.
I could imagine forgetting it once or twice, but if it just consistently happens every time,
right,
and then you change the locks, like that's spooky.
Correct. Yeah, that story came from my mom.
I figured it did, but I didn't want to give away in case you were going to do a grand reveal later.
Yeah, that one came from my mom. She actually set me up with a ton of her stories. They're sitting on our Google Drive, and it's like, hey, if I need a spooky story for our podcast for a Halloween special, booyah! I got them all.
Does Mom know she's going to be on?
Yes.
This next episode?
Yep. She doesn't know what story.
Is she excited?
I talked to her yesterday. I'm like, hey, I just finished recording your stuff last week. I said, Nick and I are doing our recording. We're doing this on Sunday, by the way, right before Halloween. We're not giving ourselves a ton of time here. But we had high ambitions. We just didn't quite.
Well, I mean, the stories have been in the works quite a while. Yeah. Just the final recording is
correct. We're piece it all together.
I mean, we can whip these out easy.
Yeah,
it's the videos that take most of the time, and the research on regular episodes.
Yeah, the research on regular episodes that takes the absolute longest. It's crazy how long those take.
People did all this for us.
Correct. Yeah.
I just had to listen to people and write down what they said and change it a little bit.
For sure.
Man, got to be Halloween every day.
Yeah, no doubt, 100%. But yeah, that's is a spooky story. It happened when I was just a baby. The funny thing is the stories that she provided it seems like it's all kind of from that time frame and on.
Right. So was that the first occurrence?
I don't know. I didn't ask her that question yesterday when I was talking to her, and I told her, hey, we're doing this. She goes, what story are you using? And I told her, and she's like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cause there's a few stories on there. So.
Right.
I don't know.
Well, thank you very much for that. But how old were you when you left that house?
So this is the same house. I don't know if you know this or not. That dresser that they're referring to.
Right.
That's the same dresser that we said the great grandmother had owned. And the Halloween special last year, a call back to last year's Halloween special, I talked about the woman with the bun, and then you and I looked at the picture after the fact.
Yeah. That's hers?
That was her dresser.
Oh, wow. That's extra interesting then.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know, you got to go back to last year's Halloween special and see kind of what we're referring to. But I told a story from my childhood. So we were there until I was probably, well, let's think. I left that house and went to first grade at a different school. And that's when we moved to the second house for me. And we stayed in that until I moved out.
Now, did you say, and maybe I've got the time frames wrong, but I think you said that you never really had any occurrences that you saw in the first house or from that time period?
It was from that house. Our Halloween special of last year was from that house. That was mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the woman that was, that I walked out of the bedroom, then I went to the front room. And
right.
Yeah, that was in that house.
Ah, okay. I thought part of the story had said that you personally hadn't, or the person telling the story or someone had not really seen much there, but maybe it was just from that time period.
Yeah. Well, so my mom, and the one we just listened to, she said that her parents had lived there before, her and her parents, and she had never experienced anything else, which takes me back to that dresser.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Because I sort of figured out very early on that this is one of your stories.
Yeah.
And I think I was sort of switching who I thought was talking at this point.
That's all right. But yeah.
But no, that's a very good story.
I think it's the dresser. I think that's what There was some type of attachment to that. It's the only thing I can assume.
Yeah. Did you title this story?
It will be titled, because what I'm doing is I kind of want to do, again, kind of like Tales of the Crypt, like what we've done before. And, you know, I'm going to put a title at the beginning. So when it goes from us into the actual story, it'll black screen and then it'll come up with the title, and then it goes right into the story.
If it were me and I don't want to influence you, I'd call this The Arrival.
The Arrival.
Because it come with the dresser.
Hey, I like it. There's nothing wrong with that.
And
Nick.
I think it followed you the rest of your time.
I think you're probably right. It probably did. Listen, maybe we opened up some type of a portal there, Nick. You ever think of that?
Or maybe it's back from Narnia or something. No, that was a wardrobe, not a dresser.
Now listen, they don't know that.
That's right.
No one watched
the ghosts
Narnia.
don't know. They can fit anywhere.
Well, I mean, our viewers, they don't watch Narnia stuff, Nick.
Oh yeah, that's not spooky enough for them.
It's our idea. Or it's our idea. No one can steal it. And if it's been done before, it was our idea still.
Yep, copyright.
Copyright infringement. Give us money.
I think I was sort of influenced by the video where it was like the dresser opened and this sort of looked like particles were coming out, and I'm like, that came in the dresser and it escaped.
That's why I did it that way. I wanted there to be like a mystical. The beauty of AI is it does a really good job for the most part, but when I told it, I wanted there to be ethereal mist, and it turned into like an ethereal, you know, I don't know what you would call that, like particulates above the drawer. I'm like, close enough. Close enough.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
It looks real good.
But yeah. So that was story number 1, which is always
I love it.
I think what we should do.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sending that.
Absolute. Thanks, Ma. I appreciate you giving me this huge list of stories.
I know, right?
So
I still say we got to bring your mom on an episode one time.
Man, Nick, that's a scary thought. Scary thought. Who knows?
This is a scary podcast.
So for any, I don't know if I said
your
this.
dad too. I don't want to leave anyone out, but
he would not talk a whole lot. My dad's not a big talker.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
That's how dads are.
Yeah. Because you got me on this podcast. I don't shut up. So you got me who doesn't shut up. My dad
I wonder
does.
If I was talking to your kids, I'd be like, your dad talk much? They'd be like, oh, he hardly says anything at all. I don't feel like that's the case.
You know, you'd be surprised. I don't really talk a whole lot.
No?
No, I don't.
You turn off the entertainer switch after the camera's off?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
I don't believe it for a second.
So for my job IRL, Jess and I, we laugh all the time because we say that I play an extrovert.
Yeah.
Because I'm very introverted.
Interesting.
But I've got a job
this
in
is behind
sales.
the scenes here.
Yeah. Obviously, having a job in sales, you have to be kind of extroverted. So most people just think that I'm a huge extrovert, but I'm really not. I just have to one up it.
You need a shirt that says, I'm not an extrovert, but I play one on TV.
Everyone in my family laughed because when COVID happened, they was like, I guarantee because of COVID, you're like, yes, I don't have to see people today.
You know, at first I was like that. And after a while, I was kind of like, I want to see a couple people.
At least a couple.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if I said this at the beginning of our podcast or not. I have 4 total stories and Nick has 2.
Ooh. Yes.
So I'm trying to think of.
But they equal in time.
They do equal in time.
Because I'm a blabbermouth.
Nick likes to tell a story.
I like to talk. No, I don't.
So for anyone that I did an episode for, sorry. I may have shortened a few things up. I got to the point is what I call it. But I'm trying to think the best way to split this up, since I've got 4 and you've got 2, maybe we should do 2 of mine.
That's what I was thinking.
And then 2 of yours and then 2 of mine.
Yeah, we could do that.
I think that makes the most sense. I was only 10 years old when my family moved into the old house on Danville Road. At first, everything seemed normal, just another home to get used to, but by the time I turned 13 or 14, something very strange started happening. Every now and then, as I would lay in bed at night, I could feel someone gently tucking me in. At first, I assumed it was just my mom checking on me before heading to bed herself. But one night, I asked her about it, expecting her to confirm that it was just her, making sure I was warm. Instead, she gave me this puzzled look and said, "No, it wasn't me." Chill ran right down my spine. If it wasn't her, then who was it? Curiosity got the better of me, and I decided to stay awake one night. I had to know what or who was tucking me in. The room I slept in, it had a wood-burning stove, the kind with the glass in the front that glowed softly, casting shadows on the wall. I laid there, watching and waiting, and then I saw her, a little old woman, hunched over, no more than probably 5 foot tall, shuffling across the room. She moved in front of the stove, her figure bathing in the warm glow of the fire. Despite her ghostly appearance, I felt safe, comforted. She seemed to be watching over me, and just like that, I drifted off to sleep, feeling her presence close. I never saw her again after that night, and to be fair, I never felt her tuck me in again either. But the experience, it haunted me for years. There had been an old log cabin near the house, kind of catty-corner to where we lived. My dad had torn it down because it had just become too far gone, a danger to anyone that went near it. A neighbor had told us that there was this little Native American woman who lived there in the cabin many years ago. Couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, it had been her.
I like that one.
It's a pretty cool one.
You ripped down that old lady's house. How could you?
Yeah. Now, that...
You know what she was saying?
What?
She's like, "But don't rip down my house."
It wasn't my story. Wasn't mine. I didn't do no ripping.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't my dad's story. My grandpa ripped that bad boy down.
Yeah. Grandpa, what were you doing?
What was you doing, Grandpa? Yeah.
Now she lives in your house too.
I know. Listen, there's all kinds of things going on. When I was a kid, my dad used to tell that story. Mm-hmm. And
yeah,
I always found that story kind of fascinating. And then I forgot about it, to be honest. And my mom sent it to me. She goes, "Hey, this is your dad's story this year." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Dad's getting in the mix now. I feel
yeah. You know what? I kept thinking when I was listening to it, I was like, I want to go there with a metal detector around that old foundation and see what kind of stuff we can find.
See what kind of goodies?
Yeah, there might be goodies there. But you guys don't own that property anymore. This is the original house still, or?
No. So This is Dad's parents. They just lived there. They never owned it. They rented that property until from the time Dad was a kid until until they passed away. They passed away in the 2000s, I think, or late 90s. I think it was 2000s.
Okay.
Because Grandma,
did you know them well, or?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, I knew them very well.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, it was a long time ago, Nick. Listen, I'm real old at this point.
That is true.
But you still think
too.
back, obviously. Those kind of memories never go away, just softens is how I put it. But
the mercy of time.
The mercy of time. That is a good way to put it.
The other thought I had on this is, how many drawers does that thing have? That was in the first story. 3 is how many the illustration had. 3. You have 2 ghosts in that dresser now.
They both got a spot.
It's a ghost apartment.
Oh,
and
man.
if you have a 3rd story, that's still the top floor of the ghost apartment that could get filled.
Well, unfortunately, Nick, there's only 2 family stories this year. My mom, she told me, she said, "Are you telling a story this year?" I said, "No, I kept my stories out. 2, your 2, and then..."
Right.
And she goes, "Oh," she's like, "I was looking forward to your story." I go, "Not this year."
Oh.
Not this year.
Well, I think she'll like the star treatment you gave her stories, her and your dad's stories.
I hope so. And we're going to do
I was impressed.
We're going to do all the stories like this too. Once I've got Nick's all squared up, obviously, we'll add all those beautiful little animations to those too. That's why I need a little bit of extra time to make sure that I can get them all done.
Well, you guys are all lucky because I did the videos with our regular style. So if it were up to me, you just get the regular. Bert's the one that's giving you these treats. And I even told him you don't have to do them for my stories.
Listen.
But he's like, I am dedicated to the people.
We got to step it up. We got to give the people what they want.
I thought using our own voices were stepping it up.
Yeah, I think that's a cool thing. It definitely
I like that. It was fun.
Now, what's interesting is, and I didn't even know this, the software that I use, well, it's not, I guess it is software, but the thing that I use for the sound effects, which the soundscape and the Foley art, it's called Soundly. And it pulls off, I've got like, I forget, it's like 200,000 or 300,000 different sound effects. But it's got this feature, I never really used it before. In the next episode, you'll hear it, which I think is cool, but you got to pay close attention. The one thing that I always talk about is like TVs and stuff, and I kind of make it to sound right. There's a setting inside there where you can type out and it's got AI voices, and then it puts it in like whatever. It could be like, this is what it sounds like if it was in a cell phone. This is what it sounds like if it's on TV. This is what it sounds like if it's coming out of a transistor radio. This is what it sounds like if it's a walkie-talkie. So I'm like, that is like really cool. So
I like that. Audition has that too, because I've seen it.
Yes.
But I could never figure out how to get back to that again because there's so many features.
So it's under the effects rack.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
See, I was looking in the in the regular settings that you have there. Oh, okay. I saw it once and then I never saw it again.
Yep.
And I was like, I got to remember this.
It's in the effects rack, but it only gives you a few options. It gives you a PA. It gives you.
I thought one was a radio though.
AM radio. Yes.
Yeah.
But what's surprising is there's probably like 25 or 30 different ones in Soundly. But what's fascinating about Soundly is it's almost like it's more real life application. Like one of them is what it would sound like if it was an announcer on an airplane.
Okay.
And you wouldn't think it'd be much different, right? Than like, I guess to a degree you would. But like for me, like if it's on a radio or if it's TV, I would assume I don't all sound the same, but it doesn't. And then when I listen to it, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that really does not sound the same.
For the PA on the airplane, if your voice was like, we're going to be landing in Toronto in about 30 minutes. The weather is nice. It takes that and it turns into, we're going to be landing in Toronto in 20 minutes and the weather is nice.
These poor pilots, you're giving them a tough time, Nick.
They all do that. I think it's intentional.
It probably is intentional for being 100%. It's probably one of those cases where they're trying their best to give information, but they understand that it's not always that easy.
They're probably like, I don't know where I am right now. I've flown 8 flights today or something like that.
Yeah. I could see that. You know, if we were pilots, we'd probably do the same thing, Nick.
Oh, heck yeah. Heck yeah.
But yeah, that was Nick's only going to unfortunately see those 2 that we just did as the videos. The rest are audio. Sorry, Nick.
I got to use my imagination machine.
Yes. I've actually not done sound effects on any of them either, because what I found is the sound effects are kind of based now visually based on what I'm seeing.
Right. When I was watching it, I was like, well, he had to have done the sound effects after, because when that person was like asleep and they were sort of like
grumbling,
smacking their lips or whatever, or bumbling, that's what it was. I was like, well, that's timed up with that. There's no way he did that first and did 10,000 video prompts to fit it.
The problem with AI video, and I love AI video, I've kind of fine-tuned it to a degree for my liking,
Right.
The problem is you don't always get exactly what you want. You got to kind of play around with different concepts and ideas, and you might have to render something 10 times to get exactly what you want.
Right.
In each one of those videos, so for the record, the average length of time is 6 seconds per video rendered, and they take about 5 to 8 minutes each video.
Wow.
So yeah, they take a long time to render. But
that'll improve.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. The company I went with is by far, though, I think the best. To be able to do, I was telling Nick, I started out doing these and I wanted to use our style. And at first I couldn't quite figure out the prompting. So what it was doing was it would start out as like our cartoon, and then like halfway or 3/4 of the way in, it would turn into a real person doing the same thing. So it's almost like a morph. Like, you ever see those episodes where it starts as a cartoon and then it goes into like a claymation?
Yeah.
That's what it was like. And I'm like, okay, that's not spooky at all. I'd be completely confused.
No.
So it took me a day to figure out how to get the prompting to do it the way, but you got to kind of let it do its thing. You can't really tell it what to do per se. Because it will tell you to pound sand.
Yeah. It's in control. It is Skynet after all.
It really is. Now, eventually, I think that'll get easier also. And everyone's probably like, what's he doing? I'm just extracting Nick's files so I can put them in this program. Sorry. So eventually with time, it will get better. And I know it'll get better. It's just right now, it's at its infancy. We're just we're getting the ball rolling with AI, as some would say.
That's right.
So, but I'm super excited with what we're going to get from it. I think that it's going to give a lot of options that we haven't seen before.
I think by the end of the year, Adobe is going to have some real crazy stuff that might change our workflow.
I can tell you that I've been using AI stuff now for probably a solid 8 months, different levels. We started with really AI voices, and then we went to AI sound effects, and then we added, little AI things with editing. Like, our videos are all edited with AI from a camera switch kind of deal.
Right.
But when
thank goodness,
it's crazy, but it's so awesome. It's so awesome to have, the AI do that, because you figure our average podcast is probably an hour and a half, probably. For me to sit there and edit, go from my camera to Nick's camera to my camera to Nick's camera to mine to Nick, that's 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, for sure.
AI can do it in about 10 minutes.
Those machines, man, I'm telling you.
I tell you, that was, of all the things I've purchased AI, that was my favorite one, because I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Now, the problem is it does it in 10 minutes, but then I render the video and take it into a different set of software, because then with that other software, I start tweaking things that it's just our signature style of podcast, and that's what I try to keep it. So
that's what brings you the ghosts each week.
That's right, them doggone ghostesses. But yeah, the AI video I'm super excited about. We've added some B-roll stuff. I've actually found a few different techniques I'm going to be playing with also that I'm super excited about. And those will be implemented probably in the next few weeks. So I've kind of been learning some different things. One of the things I learned on my channel is I've been taking older scale photos, upscaling them, and then reanimating them to tell some of the stories.
Yeah, you said that really helped.
Oh, it really helps, because it's one thing when you create an AI scene of whatever it is, but it's never the true location or the true people. Or now I'm taking the true people, upscaling photos from like the 1920s, 1930s to where now they look like normal people. I'm recreating them and then animating those actual photos. And it's just such a cool thing.
People are doing services of this where they bring family members back to life for a little short video or something like that.
For sure. I watched a thing where I watched a video where it teaches you how to do it as a business. and like charge people. Right. And I'm sitting there thinking, yeah, I'm going to learn this because I want to do it for myself, not necessarily from a business standpoint. But that's how I learned to do all of that. Was I watched a video on how to create a business around doing it.
Yeah. And if you're doing it for your own goals, I find it a lot easier to learn.
Yes, for sure. So, well, Nick, those was my two. Now you've got two also. Were these friends of yours, acquaintances? Who were these people?
These are friends of friends. I don't know these people directly.
Because last year one of your people disappeared.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to them. They were also an acquaintance, thankfully. I never heard from them again. I think they just moved away.
That's crazy.
And stopped using the internet. I don't know what the deal with that was. But I know they would have liked what we did for their story.
That's doggone right, Nick. How could you not?
Yeah, exactly. Now, this year we've got two, and maybe not at the same time, but I put their full names in the videos or in the narration because they wanted to.
Hey,
that wasn't my choice. So we got no fake names this year.
Trying to think. Mine, I don't know that I used names in any of mine. I think I either referred to people in third person, but from a relationship standpoint.
Right.
I think they put names in there, but I'm like, I don't know that I want to put names in there for mine because I don't think asked
these
them.
People wanted.
That's what I'm saying.
Them to be in there.
Mine, they didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I think in the last one I did put names because he gave me the names and he said, tell my story. But it was from a year previous, and I contacted him twice after and I couldn't get in touch with him. Hopefully the ghost didn't get him.
Yeah, I know. That seems to be a common thread with people who participate in our Halloween episodes.
Yeah, no doubt.
Dun, dun, dun.
We could turn into an episode, Nick. Where do these people go?
Yeah, I know. Where do guests on Deceptive Reality go when they're done?
That's facts. Well, Nick.
Just in case you're worried, we don't have to use your name. I only did in these two because people requested it. So if you're scared about sending stuff in, don't be scared. We'll call you Snuffleupagus if you want to be called that. I don't care.
Yeah, on my podcast, if someone's like, I don't really know, I'm like, let's just change all the names then. Let's just change names and locations. Yeah. I can even change, like, let's use, for example, if your thing happened in the front room, does it really change anything if I say it happened in a completely different house, in a completely different city, in a completely different room? No, but it still happens. So, that kind of stuff happens on my podcast from time to time. It's all about what people are comfortable with.
Yeah, this the first one we're going to do is called The Friend in the Corner. And if it were me, I definitely wouldn't want my name attached to it because it is a wild story.
Ooh.
I was told this as if it were an actual occurrence, but I'm not going to make any comments on that. It's an awesome story, and I think it would make a good movie. But I'm a little bit skeptical, sorry. But we'll let everyone decide for themselves.
That's the beauty of these episodes. That's the beauty of them.
Yeah, I love the story.
We're skeptical from the standpoint of we may not have experienced it. But then again, there's stories that I know are absolutely true that I've told that I'm like, if I was listening to it, I'd be 100% skeptical. I wouldn't believe it either. So
same. I wouldn't believe the stories that I've had.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
That's the beauty of it. And, and I say it all the time. I tell people, listen, just because you've not experienced whatever these other people have experienced doesn't mean it's not true.
Right. And just because we tell a story or do an episode doesn't necessarily mean we believe it either.
No. Against popular belief.
But yeah, we don't believe everything.
Well, we want to do the first episode, the first one for you here, Nick, and see what we got going on.
Let's do this.
You got my curiosity piqued.
When Allison was barely 3, she started talking to someone who wasn't there. Madison thought it was cute at first, just the innocent invention of a toddler's mind. Allison called him Timothy. She would sit in her room for hours, chatting and giggling with him. Jeremy and Madison, the parents, would listen from the hallway, sharing amused looks. "She's got quite the imagination," Jeremy would say, shaking his head with a smile. Timothy was the perfect friend for Allison. Whenever she was sad or scared, Timothy was there. He told her jokes to make her laugh when she scraped her knee. He promised her she'd never be alone.
You'll always have me,
Allison would repeat solemnly, her voice small but certain as if it were a promise. But as Allison got older, Timothy started changing. It was subtle at first. Madison noticed Allison becoming more anxious. Her laughter became rarer, and when she talked to Timothy, it sounded more like arguments than play. Madison once overheard her say,
I don't want to do that. That's mean.
The drawings Allison brought home from school began to unsettle Madison. What used to be stick figures of her family, their dog and Timothy, now showed dark shapes with twisted limbs and crooked faces. One night, Madison asked,
Why do you draw Timothy like that, honey?
Allison looked up from her crayons, her voice low and matter-of-fact.
Because that's what he looks like now.
Madison's stomach twisted. By the time Allison was 6, Timothy's presence was inescapable. The door to her room would open and close by itself. Her toys would be found rearranged in strange, unsettling ways. There were nights Madison would wake to find Allison standing at the foot of their bed, staring at them, her eyes wide and vacant. When Madison asked why she was there, Allison would whisper,
He told me to come.
Madison's heart pounded harder every day. Timothy no longer felt like a childhood fantasy. He felt like something malignant, something hungry. It was one night just after Allison turned 7 that Madison realized how serious things had actually become. She was tucking Allison into bed when her daughter whispered,
Mommy? He wants to come into the rest of the house.
Madison froze.
What do you mean, sweetie?
He's tired of being stuck in my room.
Allison said quietly.
He said I just have to invite him, and he can go. Everywhere.
Madison's blood ran cold. She stroked Allison's hair, forcing a smile.
You tell Timothy. He's not welcome here.
Allison blinked, her eyes wet with confusion.
But if I say no, he says he won't be my friend anymore. And he gets so mad.
That was when the screaming started. Allison's nights were consumed by nightmares. She would thrash and cry, her voice hoarse, begging for Timothy to leave her alone. She stopped sleeping, and so did Madison and Jeremy. Their once happy daughter was slipping away, replaced by someone pale, haunted, and terrified. They tried everything: doctors, child psychologists, even a priest from the local church. But the priest shook his head, looking uncomfortable.
We don't do exorcisms,
He admitted.
It's not really something we offer.
He handed them a prayer card, but Madison saw the fear in his eyes. He believed them, but he just couldn't help. In desperation, Madison turned to their church's small prayer group. When she told them everything, their faces were pale and drawn, but they agreed to help. If no one else will do it, one woman said grimly, we'll have to do it ourselves. That night, they gathered in the Throp living room, 5 members of the church group, holding candles and prayer books. Madison and Jeremy sat on the couch, gripping each other's hands so tightly their knuckles turned white, while Allison sat in the center of the room, clutching her knees. The prayers began slowly, cautiously at first, but as the group read aloud, the temperature in the room seemed to drop. The lights flickered and the air grew thick, suffocating, as if the house itself were holding its breath. Allison whimpered, rocking back and forth, whispering,
He's mad. He's so mad.
Suddenly, Allison let out a shriek, a high, animal-like sound that made the hairs on Allison's arm stand on end. The child twisted and thrashed as if something unseen were pulling at her limbs. The group pressed on, terrified, their voices rising in desperation as they recited every prayer they knew. The room erupted into chaos. Objects flew off shelves. Doors slammed shut with deafening force. A shadow, darker than the night, flickered in the edges of Madison's vision. Something crouched, low and angry, just beyond the reach of the candlelight. Allison's body contorted in ways that no child's body should, and Madison felt helpless as she watched her little girl fight against something far beyond any human understanding. "Leave her," one of the women shouted, holding up a cross. "You are not welcome here." Allison screamed again, her voice splitting the air. Then just as suddenly as it began, the room fell silent. Allison slumped to the floor, gasping for breath. Madison rushed to her daughter's side, gathering her into her arms. Allison sobbed, quietly clinging to her mother.
He's gone,
She whispered.
He's finally gone.
Madison kissed the top of her daughter's head, rocking her back and forth, tears streaming down her face. "You're safe now, baby," she murmured. "You're safe." The room was still, but Madison knew the fight had taken something from all of them. It had clawed at the edges of their sanity, left invisible scars that would take years to heal, if they ever would. But they had won. Whatever Timothy had been, whatever dark thing had tried to take her daughter was gone. Forever, she prayed. Forever. That night, for the first time in months, Allison slept peacefully. And as Madison sat at her bedside, watching the slow, steady rise and fall of her daughter's chest, she made a promise. No matter what came next, she would never let anything hurt her family again. Timothy, or whatever it had been, would never get another invitation.
Meowth, I choose you to protect me against whatever this demon thing is. Good night.
There's Timothy, by the way, is my dad's name, so it was weird recording this.
Oh, man. Your dad's a doggone demon.
Hey, he's a demon. Well, that makes sense considering what his kid is.
Wow, that was a story. Wow. That
was pretty intense there.
That's scarier than most of my podcasts. My podcast specializes
well, like I said, it could be a movie.
It could doggone be a movie. Good night. You know, it's funny because I did an episode on my channel. I think it's Friday. It came out this Friday. It was the differences between Amityville the book and Amityville the movie.
Right. Oh, okay. Quite a few, I imagine.
Yeah. It was a 20-minute video, and I kind of went down the line of, hey, here's what happened versus here's what the movie. Yeah. And I find it funny because in the book, there is Jody, the demon pig.
It's a demon pig.
It's demon pig.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
I sit there and I hear stuff like that. And I'm like, man, I don't know about all this demon pig stuff. And then I hear something like this. I'm like, well, there's demons in every story.
Maybe.
This one's not a pig. So, hey, I believe it more than I do the Amityville one. So
I don't know 100% about this. Like there was enough people in this story that there would have been significant amount of witnesses for this.
I would assume, yeah.
And I don't know for sure, and I only come up with this afterwards, but I did go on a ghost tour one time around town, and they wouldn't tell us exactly what house, but they said that there was a demon that was tormenting a family in one of these houses in this neighborhood, and I'm wondering if this isn't one and the same, but I don't know for sure.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, but apparently Timothy, the demon, was not a very nice guy.
I've never known a demon
he's kind
to
of
be
a
good.
wimp. He's kind of a wimp because number one, he picks on children, and number two, he was driven out just by a bunch of older church ladies, not even a priest.
He's just doggone weak demon. He's weak.
He's a weakling. Picking on kids. You should be ashamed of yourself.
That's weak. It's weak demon.
But the weak demon. That's right. I hope that sound effects come through on that. I like.
Yeah, it sounded
doing
good.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, Nick did a great job.
I hope no one noticed that instead of murmured, I said murdered.
It's fine. Murmur, same thing.
But I decided just to leave it.
Nick's not close enough. Murmur.
Yeah. So, this came from a Madison Throp.
Well, thank you, Madison.
And her family.
We appreciate you sending that story to us.
Yeah. And your name's too close. Madison and Allison are too close. Made it hard to read.
Yeah. Now, here's some behind the scenes stuff, Nick, just for funsies. That thing was 7 minutes long.
Right.
How long did it take you to record just the narration?
Oh, I really don't know, but it wasn't a one and done deal.
It's funny because a lot of people just assume that, we go in a booth and we knock these out and we keep moving. My podcast.
Oh, heck no.
My own podcast personally are usually between 30 minutes and 45 minutes long.
Right.
I record the narration for those for about 2 hours every episode, and then I cut what I do best.
Yeah, I don't think it was quite that long, but this is only half the length of yours.
Well,
but it wasn't a one shot.
Here's a great example. The 4 stories that I brought today is once I edited them down, it's like 15 minutes, roughly 16 minutes.
Yeah.
It took me, it was like an hour and a half because I would do it and I'd be like, I can do that better. And then I do it again. I'd be like, I screwed up that word. And then I do it again. And then, so.
Well, let's also take into account the sound effects, the music, choosing the music, the getting pictures and video and stuff. I mean, that takes each one up quite a bit.
Oh yeah. I meant just the narration, just speaking the narration.
Yeah, I know.
Now I am
exactly.
I am excited because for my podcast this year, I'm literally just reading a book.
I think that's cool too.
Yeah. I'm going to try this. I've not actually experimented with this yet. I'm going to get B-roll material of the book down on the desk because there is pictures in the book, and I'm going to have it zoom in, and then I'm going to take once the page gets close enough, I'm going to put it inside that software and have it animate whatever the photo is on the page.
Man, if that works out, that's going to be wicked.
I know. I'm so excited. I'm so excited about it.
Oh, what?
If it works. Now in my head, it works because I'm like, it's basically the same thing. It's just, I'm taking it.
Yeah, why wouldn't it?
Why wouldn't it? Yeah. So in my head, it sounds right. But it's this for my podcast this year, I'm doing, it's a fictionalized storybook. It is Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark by Roland Schwartz. I grew up on those.
Yeah.
Wait, or who? Maybe that's the one who drew the pictures.
Yeah, I was gonna say
I love those.
It's a different guy. It's funny because I looked at the first story just because I had read them as a kid.
Right. Me too.
I'm like, do I remember any of these stories? And I read the first one, and it's a story my dad used to tell, and it's not one that I ever read in the book. And it's about the kid who. He was digging in the backyard and he found the toe.
Yeah. I know all of these stories. I can't wait for this episode now.
Yeah.
Side note, related to this, I have 2 nostalgic quests that I've been working on for a while. One of them, and I almost succeeded a couple weeks ago, was I want all 3 of those books in that series.
Yeah.
Original copies. With original illustrations. I almost got that 2 weeks ago, but someone beat me to it.
I hate when it happens.
And the other thing is a 1980 Imperial Toy Company jiggler skeleton called, what was it? Benny the Weight Watcher.
Don't know if I know what that is.
It's like a rubber skeleton. This is all it is. But I had one as a kid, and my parents had it as a Halloween decoration, and I kept it year round. And I was like, this is other people had dolls or whatever. I had this rubber skeleton that I basically carried around everywhere. And unfortunately, I shot him out of a potato cannon and couldn't find him.
Dang it, Nick.
I had a string around his leg, but the string broke.
Oh, poor Nick, man. That's a sad story.
So, yeah. But I've been searching eBay, and eventually I'm going to have both of these things, and then my life will be complete.
Well, and it's funny because, when it comes to like the scary stories to tell in the dark, it's like, that's nostalgic enough. I was actually surprised. On the book, it said that they're coming out with a movie based on these.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So I'd be curious what that's going to be.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Oh, they came out
But
with the
nothing
movie?
can live up to the. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think they might be doing more. It's pretty good, but it'll never be what you remember. What is?
Something about reading the book. And I think that's why I wanted to do that this year, because I want to actually, you see me reading the book on the screen, but then it's going to go to like animations or like the AI creative video kind of telling the story, and it's going to seamlessly go between me and the stories.
Was it Alvin Schwartz? Oh, man.
Can't remember.
Hold on.
I got the book right upstairs.
Cut away from my camera while I search this.
Nick's like, I'm totally going to check this out. But I'm super excited.
I need to know.
The animations are in the book. Like some of the animations, I'm like, how cool would that be to have like at the beginning of every single one of those short stories, it go to the book, and then the book actually kind of like have that image morphing inside the book between the words and stuff. I'm like, how cool would that be?
I hope you've got the original illustrations because they're so cool, but they were retold by Alvin Schwartz and drawings by Stephen Gamble. And Stephen Gamble is the best artist that I've ever seen. Yeah. In my opinion.
I don't disagree. I tell you, I remember but it's funny because my dad used to tell that first story and when I was a kid, but he used to try to scare me all the time. He'd be like, where's my toe? I think he used to say big toe, though. I think he added a word. Dad adding words.
I like that. Why have kids if you can't scare them? Oh, wait.
So, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. But we'll see. I'm hoping it turns out good.
I'm excited for this now.
Nick's just wants to hear the stories again. I kind of want to see.
I was like, all right, cut this. We're going straight to Bert's.
No, you got to stay. It is entertaining though, because I'm like, is the short stories, we'll be able to go in between each one of them. And then the cool concept for me is I'll be able to add some soundscaping to it. Yeah. And then some animations weaving in and out. Like I know the stories, but it'll be kind of cool to just retell them. It'll be like a Halloween thing.
Oh yeah.
Also for us,
it'd be awesome.
I have another script for us that I would love to do, but I don't know when we would fit it in.
Oh, what's it about?
It's the original War of the Worlds script from the 1930s.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I definitely want to do that. You know what? Maybe we could just put it out for a fun thing to do.
Could. I think it's super cool. I found it the other day in a PDF form, and it's got the commercial spots and everything, like they planned it out. And I'm like, that is so cool.
We should do that too.
Yeah.
The
for 1,000%.
Redo the commercials.
1,000% we should.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Sometime in the future, expect this as well.
I even thought about, we create like a background and then green screen air. So make it look like maybe like a radio studio.
Right.
And then have the windows, and then maybe periodically through the story, like maybe these machines walk in front of like the studio. I don't know. That's just where my
If you
head
ever
goes.
read the book for that, it is spectacular.
I was surprised that I never listened to the radio version all the way through. And I listened to it the other day for the first time all the way through, and I'm like, this was so good.
Yeah. It was so good. Yeah, we've got to recreate that.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yep. I was just looking for random PDFs of original scripts, and I ran across the one for mine and Nick, and then I ran into that one. I'm like, I got to have both of these. So
we're going to just like gradually turn into like audio actors. That's it.
That's facts.
The show's morphing.
That's true. That's true. It could. Mysterious scripting is what we could call it, Nick.
That's right. Actually, one final thing, and then we should probably go on to the next stories.
Yep.
Is when I was reading that story that we just listened to, I read and sort of voice acted a little of every part, and then I just clipped what I did, put it into the tool, and changed my voice. And that's why instead of the regular stuff we get, there's actually pauses and ums and stuff like that. So that was new part of my workflow.
Yeah, it's fun to do that kind of stuff. I did that in an episode a while back, and someone said it was so creepy because I left my cam up So you hear me telling the story, and then the demonic voice comes out, but it's still my lips moving.
That's funny.
But I intensified my eyes a little bit during that scene, and then I cut back, and someone said that was the creepiest thing I think I've ever seen. Don't ever do that again.
That's the demon in you.
So you've got another story here, Nick. Who?
Yes.
This is another acquaintance.
Friend of a friend, Simon LeBlanc.
Simon LeBlanc. That's a fancy name.
That's right.
Well, you ready to jump
LeBlanc
into this
is
one?
a common name right here. Yeah, let's do this.
Let's see what we got, Nick.
The job seems simple enough. Pick up the contents of a house in Shelburne, drive it all the way to New Brunswick, unload it, and get home in time to snag another gig on the way back. Simon LeBlanc had done plenty of moves before, some local, some long haul, but this one was just the kind of cash-in-hand job he liked. The house had belonged to some older woman who'd recently passed. The relatives were selling the place, and everything sentimental or valuable was packed up and waiting when Simon pulled his 14-foot cube van into the driveway. Boxes, old furniture, and random odds and ends. A quick job, really. He stacked the fragile stuff in the overhead stowage area above the main cargo area. Better safe than sorry. And secured the rest with straps.
Done by morning,
Simon muttered to himself. If he drove through the night, he could finish unloading at dawn and be back on the road to catch another gig by noon. Easy money. Or so he thought. The night was quiet as Simon headed down the highway. The hum of the engine his only company. He had a thermos of coffee on the passenger seat and the radio playing soft static just to break the silence. After a few hours, somewhere on a rural stretch of highway, he thought he had heard something. It was faint, just a tap, tap, tapping sound, like something shifting in the back of the truck. Simon grunted and glanced at his side mirror. Maybe one of the straps had come loose. He pulled off to the side of the road, hopped out, and opened the rear doors. Nothing. The boxes were right where he had left them. The furniture secured in place. He checked the straps. Tight as ever. Maybe he was just tired. He closed the doors, climbed into the driver's seat, and hit the road again. Another hour passed, and the tapping seemed to come back. This time it was louder. He cranked up the radio to drown it out, but it didn't help. Then came a faint, almost imperceptible sound, like whispering. Simon glanced in the rearview mirror, unease creeping over him. The whispering was gone the second he looked. He rubbed his face, cursing his lack of sleep.
I'm just hearing things,
he told himself. Then he saw the first figure. It was standing on the side of the road, a hunched, shadowy silhouette. At first, Simon thought it was just someone waiting for a ride, but as he sped past, the figure didn't move. It stood there, motionless, as if it had been waiting for him. Simon's pulse quickened.
It's just someone out late,
he whispered. But a few miles down the road, he saw another one, and then another. Each figure stood at the edge of the highway, faceless, silent, just out of reach of the headlights.
Okay,
Simon muttered, gripping the steering wheel tighter.
That's just the shadows playing tricks on me.
But the tapping in the back of the truck grew louder, and the whispering came back, this time clearer, but Simon still just couldn't make out the words. He slammed a fist against the steering wheel in frustration.
There is nothing back there,
he growled, more to himself than anything. Then he saw the man standing in the road. Simon's heart stopped. The figure was pale and slack-jawed, with sunken eyes that stared straight at him. The man's clothes were dirty and tattered, and his skin looked wrong, as if it had been preserved in a place where no light could reach. Simon jerked the wheel hard to the right, narrowly avoiding the figure. The van swerved violently, and for a second, Simon thought he might tip the whole thing. He wrestled the wheel back under control, his breath coming fast and shallow.
What the hell?
He whispered. When he glanced in the rearview mirror, there was nothing in the road. He tried to shake it off, but his hands wouldn't stop trembling.
Huh. It's just the night messing with me,
he whispered. But the thought felt hollow. Then, Out of the corner of his eye, he saw it. The man from the road was sitting in the passenger seat. Simon's breath hitched. His whole body went cold, and his heart pounded in his chest. The figure stared straight ahead, expressionless, its face pale and waxy.
Stop the truck,
it whispered. The voice was cold and hollow, like a breeze blowing through an open grave. Simon didn't think. He slammed on the brakes, getting to a stop on the shoulder of the road. His hands were shaking so badly that it took 2 tries to undo his seatbelt. When he finally got out of the cab, the night air hit him like a slap. He stumbled around to the back of the van and flung the doors open. At first, everything looked just as he left it. Boxes stacked neatly, furniture tied down, but then Simon spotted it. Tucked away in the overhead stowage, a brass urn, dusty and cold to the touch. Light hit it as if he were meant to find it. His stomach turned. He remembered now. The relatives had mentioned an urn, but in the rush to load everything, he must have forgotten to unload it at the new house. He hadn't thought much of it at the time, but now, standing there on the side of the desolate highway, the realization hit him like a punch to the gut.
Jesus,
Simon muttered, his heart still pounded, but the top tapping and whispering had stopped. The night was quiet again, eerily so. Without thinking, he climbed into the cab, gripping the urn like it was the only thing keeping him tethered to reality. He glanced at the passenger seat. Empty. The man, the thing, was gone. Simon turned the truck around, heading back to the house in New Brunswick. He didn't stop, didn't think, didn't dare look in the mirrors. It was like a weight had lifted the moment he made the decision to turn around and return the urn. When he reached the house, he placed the brass urn carefully on the porch, gave it a solemn pat like he was a sleeping dog, and got back in the truck. The drive back was uneventful. No tapping, no whispers, no shadowy figures, and no passengers. Simon kept driving, grateful for the silence. Some jobs just weren't worth the extra cash, he figured. From now on, he'd leave the night driving and whatever lurked in the dark to someone else.
Damn.
Yeah, man, it's not all about the cash, man. Sometimes I gotta leave things alone.
No. That's I like doing the music on the radio in that one because we used our regular tools again.
Yeah, that's such a cool thing. I love that kind of stuff when this is going to sound facetious and I don't mean it to be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of podcasts is lazy. And by that, they tell a lot of great stories, but they don't use all the tools. And I understand why. It's time consuming.
Oh, heck yeah.
It's a big time pain, you know, like I'm sure just creating these 2 stories, you were probably even shocked with how long it took to create these 2 stories.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And that's what I try to tell people all the time. It's like, you might listen to a podcast that I do that's 30 or 45 minutes. I have hours, probably 25 hours per episode in each one of those.
Yeah.
So it's not easy.
The best podcasts that I hear are usually like ones that are put out like big companies like Dateline and Cold Case Files, because they have 15 years of footage and soundscaping that they just cut together.
Yes.
Like they already have this, but if you're creating this on the fly, it takes a long time.
Correct. You know, it's kind of like this AI video stuff I'm doing now. Like, even if I can't use it, like, I'm like, that's not what I'm going for. I'm still saving it because I'm like, I might be able to use that for a different story.
Oh, heck yeah.
And
you never know.
Right now, I think I'm sitting on like 650 or 700 videos that I've created at 6 minutes a pop or 6 seconds a pop.
Man, you've been busy.
Yeah. Because, you know, you got to figure at 6 seconds. Most of the time it's B-roll, but like, think about the animation for the videos that I've done already. I mean, those are like 3 minutes long at 6 seconds each.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Takes a while.
Some of them you can extend, or sometimes you can use the same image, but just zoom in, zoom out. So, you know, there's little things you can do here and there, but it's still time consuming. I think for those 2, for like 6 minutes or whatever I did, I think I worked on that for like 7 hours yesterday, 6-7 hours.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a work day.
It's a work day. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Nick and I, we typically record on Monday. We're recording this on, like I said, on Sunday, but we're taking Monday off because all I'm going to do Monday evening is just work on, I'll probably do 6 or 7 hours to do his video. Cause now I kind of have a structure and it's faster once you learn a structure of how to do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the second one's all trucks.
Yeah.
So that should hopefully not be too hard.
But you think that, but then you think to yourself, like, how many different scenes can you get inside the truck and have it look the same?
Yeah. Yeah, that's difficult too. Even getting the images for that.
Yeah.
But I got to say about this story, I know exactly how you felt, Simon, because I've been in situations where I got to get out of a car quick.
Oh, yeah. And you get stuck.
It does take a few tries it's almost like a nightmare. You know, those nightmares where you can't run fast enough or something like that?
Yes.
Like in an emergency, if you're trying to get your seatbelt off, even though it's a single button press, it's not easy.
The worst is when you press the button and it doesn't release at all. Like you push it all the way in, you feel it hit the other end of the thing. And for some reason, it's like it's stuck.
Yeah.
That's you, Simon. I'm sorry. You dealt with some spooky stuff.
In an emergency, especially.
You know, the way the story was going at first, I thought it was one of those Route 56 stories.
Oh, what's that?
So there's like this route that they say is haunted. And Route 56. Anyway, but it's always these truck drivers that talk about things that they see on Route 56.
Yeah. This guy was like a cube. I said truck, but it's actually a cube van or a box truck.
Yeah. So
he wasn't going those long routes.
Right.
Usually. Luckily for him, because I bet they get tons of stories.
I bet.
What's that highway that used to go, like, I guess, right across America, and it was sort of like all cut off?
Route. Oh, man. Why can't I think of it?
We'll think of it, but that's
like,
I hear tons of stories about that. I kind of want to like travel that and see all the little ghost towns and, you know, the little towns where there's like 18 people in it and stuff like that.
Well, it's funny because I actually kind of laugh. There was a video I watched the other day. This is on topic, but a little off topic. And it was talking about the longest route that you can travel. And it's from like the very tip top of the US all the way into South America. Right. It's like one continuous route.
Oh, wow.
And I was super excited because I'm like, that'd be a dope little. And then I watched another video on the same exact thing. And it said, it's not that way because apparently it goes through some type of like swampland or some water area. So technically it's not connected. I'm like, the first video is a lie.
Lied to you.
So yeah, that's a great story though. Thank you so much for submitting that in.
Yeah. I thought it was going to go a different way. I thought it was going to be like, I picked up a hitchhiker and she told me to take her to her house. And then her parents were like, she's been dead for 40 years. But this was a whole different thing. And it's good because he returned the urn.
That's all that matters. You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah. My only regret with making that episode is I should have put a little sound effect where he pets it like a dog when he leaves it on the doorstep.
Well, when it said he patted it,
that was a nice touch.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
The old pat.
Yeah. Yeah. He like puts it on there, pat. Okay, leave me alone. Bye.
Yeah, the route is
that was a fun story too.
Route 66.
Ah, okay. And you were saying the other one you were talking about was 56?
56 is not, it doesn't go across the US. It's like a huge route, but supposedly it's haunted. I want to say it's Wyoming. I don't know. I looked at I was going to do a video. I'm doing all these extra videos on the side, but it's like haunted spots. And I just talk about that spot quickly.
Right.
But like they're shorter videos. They're like 3 to 8 minutes. But it was I think it was Route 56. It was pretty sure it's Route 56. I think it's like Wyoming though. It's like Wyoming or Arizona or I don't know. But these truckers.
I'm fascinated with deserts.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I feel like probably any highway Like there's that world famous story is how I'm going to put it, is there's always this road that goes by this lake and there's a woman in a white gown. Like I feel like stories like that just happen everywhere.
Got that.
Yeah. We have them here in the States too. But like if you put it in, there'll be like 50 of those stories from 50 different routes.
Right.
So
yeah, common folklore, I guess, is what it is.
Yep. All right, Nick, I've got 2 more. Do you want to go to one of mine?
I sure do.
This one is one where I did that TV sound effect. So I'd be curious. It's very low. Like it's hard to hear, but if you hear it, you're not going to hear what it is. It's from an actual famous television show and I recreated it. But
I'll see if I can guess. Turn it up a little bit for me.
I'll give you a little crankety crank. Here we go, folks. Oh, it was late. It's about 11:30 in the evening. My fiance and I, we'd curled up in the den, trying to find something to watch on Hulu. Our house, outfitted with state-of-the-art security cameras. One that was pointed at the front porch, another watching the garage, and a third facing the back gate. The camera feeds, they show up on a monitor in the corner of the den, and I was sitting in my usual spot, an armchair with the feet up, casually scrolling through my phone. That's when I heard it. A soft, childlike voice, faint but unmistakable, drifting through the monitor. "Hello," it said. I froze, my mind racing. At first, I thought maybe it was my daughter calling out from her room. You see, there's a camera set up near her window, so maybe she was yelling through it. But then I remembered. She was fast asleep in the guest room. Just to be sure, I called out her name, but there'd be no return response, confirming that she was still fast asleep. That's when I would glance over the monitor, and I saw him. Standing at the foot of our front steps was a tall, shadowy figure, a man dressed in a plaid jacket. But it wasn't just him. He was holding the hand of a little girl. Her hair was wild and curly, and she wore a striped sweater. Slowly, they began making their way up the porch steps. My heart started to pound in my chest as I would nudge my fiance. "Someone's here," I whispered, my voice barely above the tremble. Now, we live in the middle of nowhere. We have dense woods that surround our property for miles. It's not the kind of place where someone just stops by, especially not this late at night. The nearest neighbors, they're far enough away to where you wouldn't expect to see anyone walking around, much less be on our front porch after dark. As the man and the girl reached the door, my fiance would jump up and head to the door. He would open it, and to our surprise, there was no one there. No man, no little girl, nothing but the quiet of night and an empty front porch. He would step outside. He had a flashlight in hand, scanning the dirt road and the yard. But there was no sign of anyone. No car, no footsteps, nothing. We even thought that maybe they was having car troubles, but there was no sign of that either. Feeling a little bit uneasy, I let the dog out and checked the yard, while my fiance continued to search with the flashlight. But there wasn't a single solitary trace of them anywhere. Confused, we would go back to the camera footage, expecting to see the strange figures we had just witnessed. But to our shock, the footage was completely blank. No man, no girl, not even the eerie voice that we had heard. It was as if none of it had even happened. My fiance, who's always been a hard skeptic when it comes to anything paranormal, for the first time, I saw him a little shaken. He confessed that just the week before, when I was visiting family, he had noticed something very strange. He had seen movement outside, and when he went to go check, he found the hammock swinging wildly. Except this night, there was no wind. Our daughter, for the past couple of months, has refused to sleep in her room, claiming that she could hear strange scratching noises, and from time to time, she's felt her bed tremble at night. Of course, I just brushed it off as a nightmare, but after what happened, now I'm not so sure. Our house is kind of old, part of it built in the 1800s and used as a general store before it was converted into a home. and there's always been something off about the older section. After last night, I can't shake the feeling that whoever or whatever we saw, it wanted our attention. But what's even stranger is how I feel now. Where I used to have this almost like heavy sense of anxiety, I now feel oddly calm, as if they've been trying to reach out to us for a long time. Our daughter's been sleeping in our room ever since, and I have no plans on pushing her back to her room anytime soon. In fact, we're setting up a brand new room for her, but until then, she's staying very close to me. Now, I've taken some naps in her room just to see if I can experience anything that she's described, and every single time, I've been plagued with vivid and disturbing dreams. Whatever is going on here is getting stranger by the day.
You know, this is the kind of story I really appreciate, where you don't know what the cause is, what started it. Everything's a mystery.
Everything's a mystery. This one I felt like had a lot of different things.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, what I mean is there is this situation where the house used to be an old general store and then it was converted to a house.
Right.
They didn't really have anything or nothing that was totally noticeable. The fiance had noticed the hammock swinging on the back. I think it was like the back deck area is where it was.
Yeah.
And he acknowledged the fact that there's no wind, but this thing is swinging.
Right.
But then on top of all of that, they have she has the situation with the camera. She wakes him up. Now, if you're the guy and you're waking up and you look over and you see it, you acknowledge it. Now you're going to the door and it's not there. You're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's kind of a weird situation to have.
But I think one of the things that adds to the scariness for me is, as far as I could tell from that story, the oldest occurrence is 2 months.
Yeah.
Why now?
Right. It takes us back to kind of like that Enfield story where they lived there forever and didn't have a single situation. Then out of nowhere, it started happening.
Yeah. And it sounds like this kid is probably not old enough to be triggering a poltergeist thing necessarily.
I apologize if you did say your child's age. I don't think I put the age of the child in there. I can't remember.
Isn't that usually like a teen thing, like an early teen thing?
Yeah, usually.
Yeah. I'm just guessing from the sounds of this that it's not an early teen, but
yeah, for sure. But interesting story. That story, I'm looking to see if they gave me the okay to use their name. I didn't use it in the story because she didn't really use the names in the story. I'm going to leave your name out just because I didn't get approval. But thank you so much for your story.
Right. And if we find out you did want your name used, we'll say it in the next episode.
Yeah, absolutely. Or I'll even put it in the description of this one too.
Yeah,
so,
that too.
We'll do both.
But they want to hear it in our lovely voices.
That's right. We'll acknowledge it from there. I do have one story left, Nick, and this one, the guy gave his name. In fact, he gave me all kinds of information. I've been saving the story for a long time. He sent it to me via Twitter forever ago. His name is Andrew Dexter.
Oh, okay.
And he's overseas. He's South Wales, and this is where that story takes place, I believe.
Well, I'm super interested in this. We don't get many from that far away.
We do not. Actually, what he said was, I will grant you permission to do your very own take on the experiences. And if that means obviously adding for effect, you may do so as long as it doesn't stray too far from the truth. I've heard your podcast, and yes, I'm very impressed. And I would like you to share in your own style. So I definitely appreciate that. But I kept your story exactly the same. I didn't change a single solitary thing to your story. We do not try to change any stories here.
Right.
I think the truth is scarier than the fiction.
Yeah. I mean, we might changed the wording, but the actual facts of the case remain the same.
Yes. Now, apparently he's done some interviews in the UK about this story.
Oh.
So a little bit bigger, and the location is a pretty big location there. So this is a fun story.
We do it justice, because this is very big.
Very big.
It sounds very big.
So let's do this one, because I know Nick's got something coming up, so I want to make sure we get done with this.
I'm always up for good stories, though.
This happened many years ago to me and my family in a place called Gladstone Villa. It was a large old property, a former mining town in South Wales Valley. Living in the house with my grandparents, Bill and Rita, my parents, Douglas and Carolyn, had just gotten married and were living there too. And from the moment they moved in, things began to happen. Things that simply defied explanation. It started quietly almost, innocently enough. There were footsteps in the attic, and every so often, little objects would move around on their own, like a poltergeist that was playing tricks on us. Actual sightings were very rare, but they did happen. My mother always said that it began when I was just a baby. One night they heard a noise coming from the attic, loud enough that they thought that possibly someone had broken in. But when they checked, the attic hatch was open, but there was no one there. Whatever it was, it eventually moved into my grandparents' bedroom, where strange things continued to happen. When I was just a baby, my mother discovered that my pillow in the crib had been torn clean in half. Things got so bad that at one point, they had to move me out of the room entirely. I was too young to remember all of this, but as I got older, I started to experience the hauntings myself. The footsteps were the most frequent, especially in the evenings when we were downstairs watching TV. They'd start in the attic and then work their way across the landing. My grandfather, he would often say, "It's by here now," as he tried to figure out exactly where the sounds was coming from. Then one night something happened that I'll never forget. See, I was laying in what we deemed the haunted bedroom, facing the window. It was quiet, the lights was on, and everything seemed normal. But suddenly, I felt something jump onto the bed. My heart raced, but I didn't dare look right away. When I finally summoned the courage to turn around, there was nothing there. But the feeling had been so real, it felt like an animal. When I told my family, they came and found claw marks on my bed. Later, I would learn that my grandfather had a dog, a black Labrador named Toby, who had died before I was born. Now, maybe it was him, but I'll never know for sure. Now, other things has happened too, like the night my grandmother jumped out of bed as the boiler door flung open by itself for no reason at all. And there was the time that my family friend Fred Davis came to visit. We were all sitting in the living room when a loud bang shook the house. It was so loud that Fred ducked, thinking that something was about to come crashing through the ceiling, but when we went upstairs to investigate, there was nothing. Nothing at all that could explain the noise. The poltergeist activity would escalate after that. Lights would flicker on and off, cables would be yanked from the sockets, and the TV would turn on and off by itself. My grandfather even had a terrifying experience one day while lying in bed. He had completely become paralyzed, unable to move or to even call for help. He heard the floorboards creaking as if something or someone was walking all around him. There was even a time when my grandmother and grandfather heard a baby crying. I never heard it myself, but they swore it was real. My grandmother didn't believe in ghosts at first, but after one of their friends, Miss Ivy France, came to investigate and experienced it for herself, she changed her tune. Now things got so bad that they called a medium in. His name, John Matthews, and he challenged the spirit to reveal itself. He would knock on the ceiling, and to his surprise, the spirit, it knocked back. He went to a trance to try to communicate, but he couldn't get a name. He could only confirm what we already knew, that there was an earthbound spirit in our home. A priest was brought in to bless the house, and for a few months, things quieted down. But it wasn't long before the activity returned with a vengeance. One night, my mother was watching TV, and my grandmother was reading a book, when my mother spotted something behind her on the sofa. It was a monk, a full figure dressed in a traditional monk habit, standing silently behind my grandma. My mother only saw it for a brief moment before it vanished. Now, from that point on, things only got worse. We even started hearing what sounded like a Gregorian chant coming from the bathroom. One night, my grandfather tried to open the bathroom door, but it wouldn't budge. "He's behind there," my grandfather whispered, terrified. Eventually, we couldn't take it anymore. We were sleeping downstairs with the lights on, too scared to stay in our own rooms. My grandmother named the spirit Johnny, and my grandfather would sometimes mock it, just trying to get a reaction. But the spirit, it never responded when challenged. Now, eventually, we did move out of Gladstone Villa in the summer of 1978, and the house was converted into a hotel. Strangely enough, the staff of the hotel reported hearing noises and footsteps, just like we did all those years ago. I later researched the history of the property and discovered there was a family named Kim Yet that lived there in the 1920s. Their baby, Elvin, died there at only 4 months old. That might explain the crying my mother and grandmother had heard. What I've told you today is the truth. Every bit of it. I wouldn't lie about something like this, especially not on Halloween. If you find yourself in Baragoid, stop by the Red Park Hotel. You just might hear Johnny's footsteps echoing through the halls.
I want to find myself in Baragoid. I want to go to that hotel.
Nick's like, I need to check this out, see what's going on.
Yeah, I need to look that up. This story, a lot going on, and definitely not as much in the thing that it makes me think about. But my brother's bedroom in our house when we were younger was also the bedroom that had the attic hatch.
Oh, man.
And he had some crazy experiences. He had night terrors. He had, like, he always swore, to this day, he'll swear that he saw a gloved hand come down through it and all this stuff like that.
Oh, that's spooky.
Hear voices and all that stuff. So I can imagine, in my head, I'm imagining my brother's room when he talks about that room that's got those hatches. Those hatches are spooky anyway.
Oh, they're spooky, yeah, because it's like an area you cannot see, or you typically do not see.
Yeah.
And especially as
you're
a
not
kid.
really supposed to go there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. I think I know what you're going to say, but I want to do an experiment here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you had a ladder hatch.
Yeah.
To your attic.
Yep.
You hear noises in the attic and you go upstairs. Is it scarier for you if the ladder hatch is open or still closed?
I would say if it's open.
Me too. Because whatever was up there probably is somewhere around your house now. Now you don't know.
Correct. There was a story. I have another YouTube channel. I've not been on there for a while just because of time restraints. Mm-hmm. But people used to submit stories to me, like IRL stories. Mm-hmm. And I called it was like a spinoff of my channel. It was called Retrace Stories.
Right. Oh, okay.
It was just every single week, if someone submitted a story or if I found a story on Reddit, I'd contact them and say, hey, can I redo this? One of the stories that I redid was a couple, they lived in this house and they kept hearing noises and they could never figure out where the noises was coming from. And one evening, I think it was the fire alarm or something was going off.
Yeah.
And they heard scurrying coming from the closet underneath the stairway.
Oh.
And of course they ran out of the apartment because of the fire alarm. They go back in.
Right.
The door to the basement or to the closet was open. And when they went in there, they had found there was a crawl space that was inside the closet that went down, and someone was living in that crawl space. And they was
that's extra
terrifying.
scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard stories of that kind of thing happening before.
Yeah, I have too. So those to me are absolutely the worst stories to get the oogly booglies going.
Yeah, well, it's like your home is supposed to be your safe place.
Yeah, your sanctuary.
But if it suddenly and unexpectedly becomes unsafe,
yeah,
that messes with you
100%.
big time.
Think about it from then on out. And even, I think in that story, even they said, you know, we could never even look at our new house the same, because it's like, if it's unsafe here, what's to say the next house is going to be safe?
I'm going to tell you, part of this reminds me of another story. I'm going to tell you right now a bonus story.
Ooh.
I may have told it before. In fact, I may have told it last year. Mm-hmm. But it sort of fits with this because there was like the mysterious crying.
Yep.
So my dad bought a house and he redid it and stuff like that. And he was living there on his own at the time. And then I came back from college during the summer and he said, I don't know what it is. There's this crying, like a baby crying upstairs. Like I hardly go up there, but when I go up there, there's nothing. So I even heard it one time, and then it kept happening, and Dad went up and he was like pulling open different areas that were sort of unfinished, and he found this room that someone had stuffed all their old stuff in, and right in the front was an old crib. And he took that old crib out and he gave it away, got it out of the house, and he thought, oh, for sure the baby crying at night will stop.
Mm-hmm.
So I was also there after they did it, and the baby crying continued, and I heard it. And we went up there and was looking around, and it didn't stop when we got up there. So we finally realized what it was.
What was it?
He had a little Himalayan cat with a smashed in face, and when it slept on the bed upstairs, its breathing sounded like a crying baby. So he was like, God darn. He was like, God darn it, that crib was worth a lot of money. Sold that.
Oh, man.
But I doubt it was that in this story that you just told. So,
Andrew, if you had a Himalayan cat, let me know, because we may have solved it.
Yeah, mystery solved.
Mystery
Those
solved.
little smushed in buggers, they make a lot of weird noises.
Yeah, that's the thing, is sometimes you just don't know where something's coming from.
Yeah.
And
I would love to hear the other interviews this guy did on this.
Yeah, me too. Apparently they're all based out of the UK. If you look it up by name, I'm sure you could probably find it, because I'm going to assume they're using his real name, which was Andrew Dexter.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'll have to look that up.
Well, hopefully y'all enjoyed this special episode. It's a long one because we was telling your stories. I'm always super excited about doing this particular episode because it's your guys' stories. I like hearing your stories.
Yeah, start sending them now for next year.
Yeah, exactly. We're trying to get ahead. Good night. We need to start recording the Christmas special. I told
we do.
Jess yesterday, I said we need to start recording that in November. Because I feel like last year we spent like 2 or 3 weeks just recording it, and then a couple of weeks piecing it together. It was like a month long just to create that one episode.
Yeah, we created something to sort of like split up the script too, because it was kind of messy. I'm hoping this script is not like that script, so we don't have to do that again. But if we got it, we got to.
Let's hope. It's a PDF form, so. But you guys are going to have to wait and see what we're doing this year. Last year, we did a Christmas Carol. This year, I'll tell you, because we try to stay within the themes of what we do. And all I'll say is this might have something to do with an angel.
I think they just guessed it.
They didn't. They have no. You know how many stories there are with angels, Nick? Christmas stories?
One.
No. There's plenty of them. But yeah, that's all I'm going to give you. But hopefully y'all enjoyed this special episode. Until we see you on the next podcast. And thank you before I say it. Goodbye.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween, suckers.